In what was probably one of the most entertaining weekends of LCS that we have had all year, two incredible best of fives that went the distance for both of them. I somehow walk out of it with the most miserable outcome possible. Like, god damn, dude. We'll start with C9 versus FlyQuest, which was an incredible series through and through, going the full distance. C9 winning a pretty convincing game 5, but otherwise you would have thought that FlyQuest had their number in this. And in the rematch, it feels like one of those ones where FlyQuest will just continue to scale up a little bit. It seems like the mistakes that were made in game 5 very much were like veteran versus rookie mistakes. Like, this is something that they will improve the next time around. But you saw flashes in the pan of just an aggressive style that C9 could not match whenever their backs were against the wall. It was really, really fun to watch, but yet somehow C9 always finds a way, which, hey, they locked their ticket to Arizona for finals. That's awesome. It's probably better for the fans and better for everybody in general that C9's there. I get it, yada, yada, yada. The other series, Team Liquid versus Lion. There were people that were like, oh, Castle's probably going to split time. It was very obvious to me that Castle was not getting playing time in this series, and that proved to be the case as Doko started all 5 games, which, again, 5-game banger. And I'm left here wondering what could have been if we didn't draft like shit in games 2 and 3. Because games 1 through 4 were all Team Liquid saying, hey, we are going to beat you in the early game, to the point where when 30 minutes comes, the game shouldn't really be much of a contest. Like, we should be so far ahead, we'll be fine. You are going to be behind. Nothing you can do. You're going to lose the game. Which worked for games 1 and 4. But, oh my God, were game 2 and 3 ugly. Like, so ugly. To the point where it's like, okay, if a single thing goes wrong, which in these series they tend to, you're just screwed. There's nothing you can do. And the second they fell behind just a little bit or made 1 or 2 mistakes, it was a problem. I mean, hell, they've made mistakes in games 1 and 4 that could have cost them, but luckily, like, it didn't. Game 1 was so far ahead before Morgan started getting caught out twice. It was still a relatively clean game. I'm not trying to nitpick, but like, oh man. Then you go to game 5 for Team Liquid, and it's honestly the first draft all series that felt even. It's a Aphelios versus Jinx, where it's like, okay, whoever gets a pick is probably going to win, because this game had like 5 kills the entire way through. We had the second bloodiest game all time in, I think it was game 3 for this series. To then go to that in game 5 was just like a painful process. But it was exactly that. Annie gets picked, Quid gets picked, and the game's just over. Like that. And now Team Liquid's in the losers bracket against Shopify, which next week's matchups for the LCS we'll cover in more depth on Friday on the pit. But I'm just saying, like, it's going to be hard to live up to this weekend. It was fun, despite me wanting to pull every bit of remaining hair I got on my head out because the results both didn't go the way I wanted them. I'm a curse, I swear to God. But I think your takeaway from the LCS series this weekend should just be that the top 4 is very close, and anybody technically could beat anybody else on a given day. So we could see this matchup again and see Team Liquid beat Lion. We could see C9 and FlyQuest matchup, and I could easily see FlyQuest winning that. I don't know how the inverse relationships will work. We'll see Lion versus C9 in 2 weeks in the winners bracket finals. But yeah, our top 4 is pretty fun to watch, isn't it? Some would say it's unpredictable, unlike the LEC. And I want to discuss a video that Shox made in response to a video that I made, which was in response to a Reddit thread that popped up of people complaining about LEC storylines. And again, just always go watch Shox's videos first before we really dive into these topics. But I will say, I don't envy the broadcast and the stories that they have to try and tell here, because the reality is, and we all know it, G2 ramps up pretty heavily going into playoffs. And that showed itself again as they took belt to ass for the most part to KC. Yes, KC still won a game. Yes, there were points where G2 looks like they were going to falter, but it never once felt like this series was out of reach or like that KC was in touching distance. And then you look at the other side and you look at MCOY versus Vitality, and Vitality, again, just fraudulent 1 seed. Yes, they were hurt by the schedule and the fact that they haven't played in 2 weeks, whereas Koi's had this kind of warm-up where, 3 weeks. I get it. But at the end of the day, you got to show a better showing than that. Like, they just got outclassed in every way, shape, or form. So the impact that has on the storylines and the narratives around the LEC is tough, because you want to make sure you're valuing the regular season. We had this problem back in like 2020 whenever Double If was like, spring split doesn't matter. And you ended up getting kicked from Team Liquid for that particular statement. And the regular season does matter in terms of seeding, but it's hard when you're trying to build up storylines of like Vitality first seed, and like this could be the time, but we all know in the back of our head when it comes to playoffs, until they've proven it, like you kind of can't give them that benefit. So it makes the storytelling of the regular season almost seem fraudulent or seem like fake when it's not. It's like you're trying to develop some sort of interest for these teams outside of the obvious ones of like, okay, well, we're just going to wait until G2 faces Koi and K-Corp and go from there. I don't know what you do. I know people are tired of the storylines because they don't pan out. You try and plant seeds and you have them try and grow, but like you don't stop doing that. You know, I don't stop trying to weave stories on this channel just because I know certain outcomes might end up happening. I know Team Liquid's destined to throw a Baron apparently in every single series. That's been the case since 2022. Always seems like it's going to happen. So it doesn't mean that I'm going to like change anything here. Like, it's not that I'm not going to hype them up going into that. Does it make it sting? Yes. Does it make trying to tell some of these stories that are going to feel repetitive or like just redundant? Yeah, it's going to make them feel worse. But I don't have an answer for the LEC fans that are tired of the storylines. Like, that's the whole thing that keeps us entertained outside of the actual gameplay. And honestly, it's the majority of it. Like, as an NFL football fan, I know I mentioned this in the short that I put on it, but like, you know, I see the Ravens play and they're fun to watch in the regular season, but I know they're going to choke in the playoffs. For the Vikings, I know we can go great into the postseason, but until we actually get the job done, it's tough. Same thing with the Knicks. I mean, it's a little bit of a different story with the Knicks right now. We are on a absolute heater. I don't envy the broadcast and how they have to try and weave these narratives and make the storylines compelling other than the obvious, because if you try to diminish everything or just punch down, it paints a negative light. And also, if you try to just focus on the international events, that completely devalues the LEC and the domestic leagues. So rock in a hard place for them. But I do think the G2 versus Koi matchup at a minimum should be fun. Jojopian versus Caps, even though we have a gut feeling of how that series will probably go, I think it should be entertaining. Hopefully. If not, yikes. Next up, we have to talk about Jinxie's co-stream arc, which is continuing through LCS finals, through MSI, and through Worlds, apparently. I'm curious to see if he's actually going to stay up and watch MSI at the degenerate hours that will be at for us here in North America. Like, he's going to get the full experience of like, hey, you know, you want to watch this series? Wake up at 4 a.m. East Coast time. Have fun. Good luck. But it's a good thing, because at the end of the day, co-streaming works specifically well when you're introducing audiences that are not natural to the product and letting them experience all of this for the first time. There were a lot of people that I saw make comments of like, it'd be really good if he has like a pro player or somebody else like kind of helping him through it. To a certain extent, I understand that point of view, but you got to understand you're viewing that from the perspective of somebody that knows League. We're trying to make this the most authentic, like first time watching League experience for Jinxie. You don't want to have a pro that's just over explaining everything to him. You want to have somebody that can chime in every now and then and clarify any questions that he has and maybe like help guide him along a little bit, but let him experience the raw, natural emotion of this. It will be good for everybody involved. Like, there's a lot of hype around the games that he touches, and I know a lot of people were worried that like it's brief flashes in the pan. However, he's been able to develop a pretty good following. Will that ever translate to a team? I don't know. I doubt it. I doubt he gets involved like that, because it seems like he enjoys streaming himself. And maybe he eventually gets like an IRL arc with an org, but that just feels like you're really kind of pushing to try and force something that isn't naturally going to happen on its own. Either way, I just wanted to say it's great to see Jinxie co-streaming for major league events this year. And Jinxie, if you're at Worlds, brother, I'll be here in New York City. I know you have no reason to collab with a smaller creator like me, but I'm just saying, would love to catch up in some way, shape, or form if you're here, if you're for some godforsaken reason watching this video or somebody sends you the clip. Let's go over to the LCK. The standings as you are seeing them here are with 1 week remaining, which means that Humble Life has locked in a top 2 seed going into the road to MSI. This is not an official playoff thing. Don't forget with the LCK, it is just the 1 and 2 seed face off against each other. The winner automatically goes to MSI, and below that is a gauntlet to try and qualify the 2nd seed for them. So the question becomes, who out of KT and T1 in the telecom war, to wrap it all up, is going to get the win and probably take the nod? Because if you assume that Gen G is going to win out from here, I mean, then it's just a head-to-head. If T1 wins it, they have the head-to-head over Gen G, at least one. Actually, I don't know the tiebreaker because I don't remember the first series. Either way, it puts you in a very good standing to try and grab that second seed and face up against Hanwha Life. Also of note for the LCK, that the Legends and Fries groups are already determined based on the standings. The top 5 can't change. The bottom 5 also can't change. Seeding within them can, but you're locked into the groups as they stand. It's going to be a fun week to close out the LCK regular season, so be sure to tune in. I think Thursday is actually going to be the Telecom War earlier on, which should make the rest of the week kind of calm for the most part, but then everything ramps up in intensity really quick, as again, MSI is on home soil for them, so a lot of importance on this road to MSI tournament to make sure that you're representing yourself in front of your home crowd. And finally, the last thing I want to touch on is a topic that probably deserves a much larger video on its own, but I just have some really quick thoughts that I wanted to fire off in relation to the Perry Jungle video that's kind of been going around, talking about the state of Tier 2 and the money and beyond that has happened over the last few years in the state of where the North American development system is. Oh, man. Look, when it comes to blame and where people are at right now and the state of Tier 2, yes, the overwhelming majority of that blame goes on Riot and the teams for allowing all this to happen. Teams overpaid for talent for many years. Like, I'm sorry, I know this conversation around like the California minimum salary and beyond is a lot, but Tier 2 is not a stable career. It is a gateway to pro play. It is not meant to be a spot that you can sit there and make a like full comfortable living on. That's not saying you shouldn't make a sustainable living. That part's debatable based on the economics of the scene, which right now when NACL is getting like 2,000 average viewers, unless you're subsidizing that from the main league, that's never going to be possible. So where this expectation of all that comes in is beyond me. But Perry put a lot of blame on the existing Tier 2 orgs that I just want to make very clear. It's not the fault of anybody that's currently in the Tier 2 scene for why we are in this predicament. The main fault for North American talent not being able to flow up to the LCS is on LCS GMs for importing, overtaking domestic talent. The main fault for the money disappearing is bad macro decisions from Riot and beyond that have effectively killed any interest in the scene, in addition, or well, combined with the import rule itself. The players, whether they like it or not, do take some responsibility in this. You do have, at least in recent years, and especially during the years whenever they made money and they were told, hey, your job is to play and win. Your job was never to play and win. You were led wrong, and I don't fault you for that. But in recent years, we've been telling you all that you need to make a brand for yourself. Stream, make content, and beyond. Don't tell me that content's not possible whenever I work 2 jobs and still get all of this done. You could do a lot better in branding yourself. And I get you're young by all means, but like you've got access to people that were former LCS pros and beyond and coaches that should be able to help you if you have any questions. Hell, reach out to me if you got any questions on stuff. Like just at minimum, you need to have your YouTube highlights of NACL games on your individual YouTube channel. People need to be able to follow your journey all the way through. But I intentionally avoid talking about Tier 2 in many aspects because there's so many problems that exist in the space that I just don't have time. I prefer to focus on Tier 1 and the bigger problems that we got going on there as well. But the thing I will say is, at least on my front, what I promise to continue to do to try and help, at least in the capacity that I can for Tier 2, is I will continue to push for GMs to make sure that we are picking up domestic talent over imports. I think that's the main thing that I can do in this situation, especially as somebody that is a fan of a team that can shine a spotlight on that particular issue as I did during the offseason. Beyond that, dude, Tier 2 is just a rabbit hole that I don't know how you go down. And it's one of those where like Cubby talked about leaving the space. I understand it. It's not a sustainable thing. Like you have to have a passion for it. And after you've had so many years in it, like it's tough. Where as talent do you work towards? You're not getting brought up into the LCS. That pipeline is closed. You could try to go over to Europe, I guess, and the ERL system. It's tough. It is a hole that I don't know if it'll be filled, and I don't have the best answer. But again, I just want to make sure we are appropriately assigning blame in the right spots. And I would just ask people, critically think through this stuff. And if you're going to talk about the history of all this, also talk about practical solutions right now. because wallowing in the past does nothing to solve the present issues. Like, great, players were paid $60,000. You can sit here and argue till the end of time whether that was appropriate or not. It's irrelevant to right now. It quite literally doesn't matter. So focus on the topics and focus on the things that we can change going forward and how that might impact people and how that might help the scene, rather than sitting here and just worrying about what stupid LCS GMs and leagues did back in 2018 and 2019. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, that's it for this week's quick thoughts after, well, the LCS headlines, so to speak. If you haven't done so, be sure to drop a sub on the channel. We're close to 9,000 subscribers. Might actually hit it with this particular video. Beyond that, I will catch you all. Oh, Jesus Christ. Sorry. I will catch you all later. See you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.